So the impala are being nice to us and coming out and giving us quite a show this morning, thank goodness. It is drizzling. It had rained quite heavily earlier in the morning. But when it's a light rain like this, we're still going to get some action, as you can see with these two, I was going to say young boys, but they're not, these two older boys practicing their skills. They're trying so hard to show dominance and be the best, but also not hurt each other at the same, or get themselves hurt at the same time. So that stop and that yawn. Okay, now they're going to pretend that they're not doing anything. All right. And again, good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Noelle. We are live. This is interactive. You can follow us and give comments on hashtag Safari Live on the Twitter or the YouTube, and go to YouTube chat. So this morning, it's going to be a lot of impala, I have a feeling. However, that being said, about 10 minutes ago, I could hear some squirrels and some francolins going a little bit nutty. These guys are being super interesting, so I think we're going to stay with them for a little while, and then we'll go check out the audios we had. It is not rutting season. Oh, and of course, Gendre, I'm so sorry. We have Gendre on camera. Good morning, Gendre. Gendre saying hello. I always assume that you all know that who's with me, and that is a wrong assumption. But as you can see from the amazing camera work, it is Gendre. Okay, so these boys are not rutting. It is not rutting season. Rutting season happens way earlier in the year. But Gendre and I were actually chatting about it yesterday. One of the things that you want to notice is that they are fighting a bit, but they're not making that guttural impala sound. It almost sounds predatorish, that guttural sound that they make. This is just males being males within a bachelor herd. They're working out. They're working their muscles, they're working their techniques, they're figuring out what works best for next year's actual rutting season. But because we had such a bad drought last year, sometimes you'll see in a situation like that you might have two ruts. Something I noticed about the rut from this season, and I wasn't here with Safari Live, I was a little bit farther north from here, but our rut wasn't a full rut, and for me that's because a lot of the females didn't go into estrus properly because the sustenance wasn't necessarily enough for them. And then sometimes you'll get a late estrus, and by estrus I mean ability to their female parts are all working their ability to get pregnant, as these boys are really going for it. Something else that's interesting about this behavior when they start doing this, especially on a morning like this, cats don't necessarily like to get wet. I do know of a leopard that used to swim. We talked about him yesterday, swim and catch barbel. There's lions that swim from island to island, the Okavango Delta, but in general, getting wet is not their favorite thing. However, this drizzle is a light enough drizzle that it actually makes really perfect hunting weather. So when you have males that are so preoccupied, male impala that are so preoccupied with what they're doing like now, it makes it easier for something like a leopard or a lion to hunt, specifically a leopard. And so they'll sort of wait in the shadows and watch, and then pick the one that seems to be the least concerned with what's going on in life. All right, I think we're going to attempt to drive on. We'll see how it goes. The Mara is also having a huge amount of rain, so hopefully Taylor and Scott will be out in a little bit, and then as well Tristan is going to be out with us this morning in a little bit. We have to put these wonderful roofs on our vehicles for the fact that we don't want our camera equipment to get ready, and unfortunately Tristan's having a few gremlins with his roof this morning, so you're stuck with me, but that's okay. Ooh! So Gendre has just given me an update, don't you, Gendre? That the Mshoa, the Madash, the African painted wolf, the wild dog, has crossed into Vuyatela from the west. So we are not going to go far. Ooh, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to make a big loop around quarantine. I just want to check tracks because of the sounds that we heard from the squirrels. And then we're going to go hunting wild dogs. I'm liking this. I am liking this. Lou Lou, can you see, or viewers rather I should say, Lou or viewers, can any of you see anything happening on the Djuma dam cam? If you can, give me a shout, please. Sorry, you two are very beautiful. Why are you running away? That's your action for this morning. We might get a little action just over here. There's some big males in this bachelor group. Interesting as well, we had guinea fowl just calling in the background. I don't know if you all could hear that. Got a lot of lapwings that are going a little bit nuts. This weather makes everybody fidgety because of the point that I was making earlier about making it easier for hunting. Also, guinea fowl are just confused. Guinea fowl are the wildebeest of the bird world. In general, very confused. Christine, you can see a hammerkorp eating a frog on the dam cam right now. That's incredible. That's amazing. You must definitely screenshot that. Definitely. That's very, very cool. All right, but there's no leopard or wild dog down there. Thank you. Viewers, if you wouldn't mind just keeping an eye on that dam cam for me. For some reason, I'm feeling like we might get something predatorish popping up there today. I don't know why I'm feeling like that. It's just how I'm feeling. Okay, let's make our loop. Let's see if we can do anything with these wild dogs. I love a wild dog. Well, as we know, I love everything. Chandra, should we show our very confused guinea fowl? Oh, there we go. Ooh, I'm being snuck up behind by Tristan. There's our confused guinea fowl. Can we hear that? Having such a moment. All right, well, we go see if we can find tracks for these dogs themselves. Let's head over to Tristan, who is out and about in Jiga, and see what he has to say to us this morning.
Well, first things first is good morning and welcome to a rather damp Djuma. It's got a bit of misty kind of rain and it certainly feels quite eerie and the perfect weather for wild dogs. So I wish Noel luck on that endeavour. Now, as Noel mentioned, my name is Tristan. On camera today I've got Sinzo Three Fingers Nkizi, and we are going to be coming to you live, which means hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or YouTube chat should you want to get hold of us. And as Noel said, if you see anything on the dam cam, let us know. Maybe there's been things lurking in the night that we would be interested in. Now, I'm going to try just swing past Tandy's den. Now, whether it is a den or not, we're not quite sure just yet, but it is incredible news that James followed her, and I was watching NFC yesterday, and I'm pretty convinced, like as James, that this is in fact Tandy's den. The behavior of that leopard was indicative of a female that's got cubs in a den site. It was not at all her digging anything out. Had there been a warthog inside there that she potentially wanted to hunt, we would have found lots and lots of dust coming out as she dug and tried to squabble with the warthog inside there, whereas it was a calm, sleek little entrance into the thing, and she sat there for quite some time, and then she came out and just kind of poked her head out just to see what was going on, and when she saw that there was someone back in again. So I think those little cubs are absolutely tiny. It also makes so much sense because over the last 3 days we've been finding tracks up and down on central Nyala Road North, Nyala Road South, and checking out all of the termite mounds, and I kept thinking, why is she going to termite mounds all the time and losing her tracks around termite mounds? And in fact, that very same mound we walked around the other day, so it's going to be interesting to see whether or not she is there. I won't obviously spend time there for too long. I'm just going to drive past. If there's any fresh signs or signs of her herself, then obviously we'll have a little look, but otherwise it's going to be sort of a situation where we'll carry on. Unfortunately, we can't close the area just yet until such time as we know for sure that there is a den site. She might just be prospecting and looking and trying to find a worthy den site in order to actually give birth, and so until we can confirm that there's tracks for the cubs or actually see them, unfortunately we can't really zone the area. So the best thing is to try and see if we can get it right, and then we'll zone it from there. unfortunately, for the next few weeks, or fortunately rather, because it'll keep those little ones safe. Right, but we're going to head down into that area. That's the plan for the morning. If that fails, well, there's lots of other things that were going on yesterday afternoon. It seemed like a bumper evening in the bush with Tingana and Shadow's cub and Thandi, and well, Scott had a leopard in the Mara, Taylor had new boots, so it was all really happening. And I believe that we didn't even see Tingana, but I'm hoping that maybe he'll make an appearance today. I know Noelle tried her very, very best to keep up with Tingana, but she has learnt the lessons and the ways of Tingana, the sneaky ways. As we all know, Tingana loves to just leave everybody behind. He is that kind of leopard that will do these kind of things, and does sometimes end up in a situation where he kind of will ditch you in all of about 2 seconds, which is never very pleasant. I've been through it many times with Tingana. You've got to keep your kind of bonnet on his backside through thick bush, otherwise he's just gone in a second. So I felt sorry for Noelle. It's a hard lesson. The worst thing in the world is when you find a leopard before the show starts and then it disappears on you and you can't find it again. But luckily she got to see Shadow's cub, and that's always a good thing. And Shadow's cub, I was super impressed with how well behaved she was and how relaxed she was yesterday. Generally she's a little bit of a sneaky little leopard, and I've seen sightings of her recently without mom and on videos and various other things where she just runs and she's not really interested. And so it was a nice surprise to see her just sitting, relaxing, reclining, taking in the sights and sounds, and really just kind of being a normal leopard of the Sabi sands. So good news on that regard. Right, now let's see, maybe we're gonna get lucky. Maybe the alarm calls that Noelle heard down here towards the dam could potentially be for Tandy. Where this area is not far from this dam, so if she has indeed den there, it's going to be a toss-up whether she goes to Buffelshoek Dam or she comes to Gowrie Dam for water. So it's going to be nice to watch the dam cam over the next few weeks. You might just get quite a few glimpses of Tandy if this is the area she decides to spend more time in. So that's good news. Although I see she's been favouring Buffelshoek Dam over the last little bit. She's been kind of going that side for water a lot of the time. That's why we keep finding her tracks going up there. And so maybe she's decided Buffelshoek Dam is quite quiet. There's not really much going on up there. It's away from all the hustle and bustle of the lodge, and so probably a better place for her to just spend some time. Other than that, it's really quite a miserable morning actually. It's very strange weather for this time of the year. Normally we get these kind of big thunderstorms, which we had last night. We had a thunderstorm early last night, or I'll say earlier, it was around 10 o'clock-ish that we had a thunderstorm, and then from there it seemed to dissipate, and we now have this kind of situation that we've got now, this misty, rainy weather. But there we got a beautiful little scrub hare, and look, it's got its nose to the ground. I wonder if this scrub hare is not seeking out another individual that maybe is in heat, because generally with these guys, that's not a feeding behavior. That's I'm trying to find somebody, and he's smelling. It's much like a leopard. It's just much faster than we see from lions and leopards, but that is definitely the scrub hare searching. You see, stopping and just smelling again. How interesting is this? So I've never actually seen a scrub hare try and hunt down another scrub hare via scent, and it's amazing actually how quickly they do it. And you can see he's kind of crouching right, or she is crouching right down on the ground, and nose is on the surface of the land, and it's just sniffing and trying to work out, and eventually it might find that mate somewhere here, and like I say, it's probably a situation where it's a mating part of it, and there's one that's coming to estrus, and he now needs to find her. That's why I'm guessing it's a male, but I'm not 100% sure. Very cool though, either way. Now Senzo is going to wipe the lens. It is a bit misty out here, so I do apologize if you see a little hand coming around and wiping the lens every now and then. It's just to keep everything nice and clean so that you can see what's going on. This weather reminds me of days when I used to go trout fishing, funnily enough. Now, James, I'll get into my trout fishing story just now, but you want to know when the cubs are old enough, will Tandy bring them out, or will they walk out? Well, it depends on how Tandy feels about the den. If she feels like like it's a little bit exposed, it's a little bit too open, it's maybe the rain was not ideal last night and it made it get a bit wet in there, she might then decide to carry them out because they're still going to be too young to be walking around really on their own, and she might then go and fetch one, take it to another den, come back, fetch, depending on how many she's got, obviously. And so for now, no, they won't be walking, they will be carried, but as soon as I would say even 4 or 5 weeks, they're already starting to stumble around and move around a little bit. So, by the time 2 months rolls around, she can carry one and the other one will trot behind her, and she'll just have to take it very slow. It's not going to be a quick process to be able to kind of move cubs. You've got to walk slowly and wait to catch up and all of that. She'd be able to move and be able to follow. Might even find it a little earlier than that, maybe 6 weeks. You can find them kind of moving around with her, but generally she carries them for that first little bit and will move den sites quite regularly because it's a situation where you've got a lot of predators around, and there's going to be a lot of scent made by those little ones as they urinate and defecate in there, and so she'll move them quite regularly over the next little bit. Right, I'm going to lose signal as I go through giraffe dip, so let me get out into the other side and see what I can find, and while I do that, let's go back to Noelle and see where she's going to be this morning and whether or not she's had any whiff of those wild dogs.
Hello! Okay, so it's still raining. We're still in South Africa. I believe you all had a lot of questions about Tandy's possible den site for Tristan. It is super exciting possibility. And Tristan, I have words for you later about mentioning Tangana giving me the slip. It's still sore. A little sore in my heart. That silly leopard, but it's fine. It happens. Okay, so Jeandre and I are definitely still on a wild dog hunt. We have circled quarantine. We're going to head up a little bit more north. We're going to see what we can find. And then Jeandre and I were just discussing now about wild dogs bedding down at night and when will they move, etc., etc. So for me and my experience guiding, dogs do like to bed down at night, but it's the same concept as whether or not cheetahs hunt at night, which we know from watching Scott, and Jeandre was with Scott a lot up in the Mara filming those segments, that cheetah hunt at night, especially in a large coalition like that, just as much as they hunt during the day. And it's the same for the wild dogs. It's all dependent on how many predators are in the area, what types of predators are in the area, what is the weather doing, how hungry are they, etc., etc. There's all these different things that play into it. And it also has a lot to do with, is it full moon, is it not full moon, do they have pups that they have to feed? So I've seen them doing all sorts of things. When I was in South Luangwa recently in September, I was just finishing up sundowners, and we had a late sundowner. It was more like a moonriser, and it was pretty much dark. And as I get my guests back on the vehicle, turn the lights on, there's a hyena in the middle of the road, and 10 seconds later the whole pack of wild dogs came and started chasing that hyena around. They had 3-month-old pups that were around the area, so they're chasing the hyena away from that, but then also all of those adults were going out for a hunt that night to go and get food to be able to come back and regurgitate for the babysitter and for the pups themselves. So yeah, everything is variable. My biggest thing, oh hello hyena tracks, my biggest thing is remember, the animals do not read the books. We as humans are very smart, but we are by no means the smartest mammal out there. Ooh, quick link to Tristan, go!
Well, look at who's peering at us from the hole inside the termite mound. So it seems as though it's very evident she has spent the entire night here, and that means that there are definitely little cubs inside there. I'm 99.9% convinced. Obviously, we can't be 100% until such time as we see a little face peering out of there, but her behavior and the fact that she is still here at this time of the day after a full night is indicative that there is definitely something behind there. And at first, I didn't even see her. She was so camouflaged in this dreary weather, and she was sitting with her head down, just grass poking up around her ears, and it was difficult to see her. You can see as we come back in this dreary kind of weather, it's actually very difficult to see a leopard. She's now standing up and really quite exposed, and her chest is bright and white, and we can see her very, very clearly. But she was most definitely very camouflaged at one point. But she has to have cubs. cubs. There's no other rhyme or reason for her to be inside a termite mound for this amount of time. I mean, remember, she was in there yesterday. It wasn't raining, so it's not nothing to do with the weather, but she spent the entire night sitting at this particular termite mound, which means there must be something inside there. Girl, are you going to show us your little ones? How exciting is this? This is the coolest thing in the whole world. I'm in a way, I was a bit jealous of James yesterday, but I did want him to actually see the cubs, because it would be nice to know, so that we can leave the area unscathed and not actually have to kind of give her any sort of reason to move. And so it would be nice just to get a sighting of the cubs and know for sure. But I think given the behavior that we're seeing right now, we can pretty much be certain that there is something going on here. I think that those cubs are still so small that she's not able to even call them out yet, because I watched yesterday as she approached this den. There wasn't too much communication. She just silently went inside there. I believe some of you said that you heard a few squeaks coming from there, which is, I suppose, possible, but I doubt that she'll call them, because I don't think they're even of that ability yet to be able to walk out of here. They're still blind. They're probably still wobbling all over the place, and so she would rather go inside that den than to actually have a situation where she's got to call them out. And so whether or not we're going to see them just yet, I don't think so. I think we're going to have a situation where we're going to have to wait a few weeks until she actually shows them to us. Maybe we're going to get a situation where she's going to be carrying them to another den or something like that. But how exciting. Kobe, who's 15 years old, you say on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited am I about Tandy's new cubs? Well, Kobe, probably 100 out of 10 at this stage. I'm super, super excited. Tandy is my favorite female that we see in this area, and I've wanted her to den. I had kind of built it up over the last few months that I was 100% sure she was going to den here on Djuma, and everybody said to me they didn't think so. They thought Torchwood was where she was going to go, given that she has denned on Torchwood before, and we know that she's denned more south of us, and this is the first time she's ever will have had cubs on Djuma. And so for me, it is a very, very special thing, and I'm super excited because it means that we're going to get far more frequent sightings of Thandi. She should theoretically spend a lot of time in this area now. We shouldn't see her moving and venturing very, very far over this next kind of month or two, and so it means the frequency of seeing my favorite girl is a lot more. And so that's why. Then also, who doesn't love a little leopard cub? They are the cutest little things in the whole world, and watching the development of cubs as they go from these tiny little fluff balls with these bright colored eyes into this sort of sub-adults where they're goofy, much like what we've seen from Hosanna and Tamba, and then you go through into a situation where they become these full-fledged adults, and you get to then maybe see them breed one day if they are a female or male, depends on which one. So it's just an amazing thing to be able to witness, and after kind of months of sort of thinking that she's been pregnant and hoping that she would den here, it's just a big kind of ball of excitement to be able to know that is here, and that for sure there is something going on. Like I say, I mean, I watched yesterday, and for me, James was 100% right as soon as he saw her, that it looked as though she had already given birth. There looked like a lot of milk sagging off her tummy, and so generally milk production is only just as they're about to drop, or once they have already dropped their litter, they have that milk production starting. You don't see it kind of when they're still pregnant. It's that the milk production is kicked in by the body as soon as she sort of gives birth, or around giving birth. Now she's very alert and watching very carefully, and that's because when we came this way there were a few impalas not too far away that were busy kind of walking around, so maybe she spotted those guys and that's what she's looking at. Hello, my girl. Are you a bit concerned? What's interesting about Tandy and most of our leopards that we see and we talk about, and my experience with leopards in terms of den sites, is most of them favor riverbeds. Most of them go into thick, dense riverbed areas or rocky outcrops. But Tandy, in all the time that I've seen her, in fact, the litter where Wabayiza was born, the litter with Bahuti, and the litter with Kuchava, they were all born in termite mounds. So she seems to favor a termite mound. It's obviously a recipe that she likes. She probably thinks it's a lot safer. The temperature is probably quite nice in there, and also at the end of the day, it's quite difficult for us to kind of actually see anything. So it's not like you're going to easily stumble upon this, and where she is here is absolutely perfect. You see she's got a bit of foliage around the actual termite mound itself, which means that it's quite well hidden. It's not exactly like that entrance is completely open to anybody, and so I think think she's actually chosen a fairly good one. The only problem is her proximity to a road. So she's very close to a road. She's not far off at all, and which means there's going to be a lot of passing traffic in the form of leopards, lions, and hyenas, because this particular road that we're on is one of the thoroughfare roads for Tingana, which hopefully shouldn't be a problem, given that he should be the father of these cubs. If she has indeed given birth now, it means she was mating with Tingana roughly 3 months, or just over 3 months ago, and so that would then be a right time. I think she would really try and lead him away. It's interesting because I've seen female leopards with male leopards twice at den sites, and both times were different. So the first time was a very aggressive, very kind of confrontational by the female. She hissed, she growled, she chased at that male, which led the male to just kind of, he wasn't going to have any of it. She wasn't in heat and he didn't feel like dealing with it, and he walked off. The other male that she had, she became very flirty and almost as though she wanted to mate with him, and slowly led him away from the den site. So it depends on the individual. I've also seen males lying at den sites. If you think of Anderson, Salaesh, and Tiani, often Anderson was lying with Salaesh and Tiani at the den site with them, and so it just depends on the female and whether or not that male was one she mated with. I suspect in Mvula's case he would not be treated with much respect and he would be probably given a hard time, whereas Tingana, I'm pretty sure she knows that that is the male that basically produced her cubs. What's going to be interesting is whether or not we see Tingana a lot more than what we have, because she is here with cubs now. I suspect, and it does happen with male leopards, is that when they have a female that's got cubs, there's this interest factor, and we've seen it with lions too, with Mfumo and Tinyoro, and even in Suku and Nena, that they spend a lot of time with the prides that have newborn cubs. And I think it's the exact same thing with leopards. I find that the males are intrigued and they tend to patrol that area a lot more in those first few weeks. Are you going to call them? What's she bending down? Is their little cub going to show its face? Come on. Look at this, she's going down and you can see it looks like she's sniffing at something there. So I wonder if there's not a little cub. Come on, little one. Now, my heart is beating at 1,000,000 miles an hour because it almost looks as though there's a little cub somewhere close to her feet, and just with the lip of the mound, we just can't see that little one's face. But I have a funny feeling that that cub is not far from her at all. I can't hear anything because of the sound of the rain and the drops of water. I can't pick up anything, but I'm super, super, super nervous and excited. I don't know why I'm nervous, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things. You can see she's watching us a little bit more carefully now, and I think that she's realized that the little ones are a bit more exposed than what they were. The way that she just bent down like that and sort of, it was typical of a mom that was just inspecting her little ones. I've seen it before with mothers, but look at her. Don't worry, my girl, we're not anyone to worry about. We're not going to leave you alone today. And like I say, I mean, once we've established, and now we pretty much can say that there is a den site here. The fact that James saw her here last night, I've seen her here now, we can safely assume that this is a den site and therefore zone the area from today. I don't think it's any need to actually visibly see these cubs after this morning. If we don't get to see them now, I think we'll pretty much leave her alone and let her just enjoy this den site. The last thing we want is for her to move because she feels pressured in this area. We also don't want to attract the attention of various other predators, and so off-roading around here, doing any of that kind of thing is just not the right thing to do. And so what we'll do is basically just close it from this morning. If she doesn't have cubs, it will soon become apparent. She'll leave this area and we won't see her, but this behavior is very indicative of a female that's given birth in a mound. And like I say, I know with Thandi she does give birth in mounds. I've seen her with cubs in mounds before, and so it seems as though this is a place that she likes to kind of utilize. And the only thing that surprises me is I would have thought that she would have used a mound closer towards the drainage line that was a bit less visible. Misty Lane, you're wondering how many cubs Thandi has raised to adulthood. Well, I mean, obviously adulthood is a relative term, but if we talk about how many cubs she's raised to the point where she's left them alone, then we're looking at 4. So Wabeyiza was the first one, and then she had Bahuti, then she had Kuchava, and then she had Tamba. Now, of the 4 of them, Wabeyiza unfortunately was killed by the Styx Pride, and then you had Bahuti, who just disappeared. They think he distributed into Manyeleti, but no one's 100% sure where he ended up. Obviously, we know Kuchava is still around and is mating, and that lineage hopefully will continue. And then obviously little Tamba is still in this area and still moving around. And it makes so much sense why Tamba is spending so much time now down at Chitwa and Nets, those areas, is because I'm pretty sure Mom was very firm with him and pushed him away quite quickly once she realized she was pregnant. It's also very interesting to see how quickly she mated this time around. It was a very fast turnaround between Tamba and this new set of cubs that she's potentially got inside this den. How amazing is this? Sally, you're wondering if the rain could cause her to move dens. It's possible, Sally. It depends on what the structure is inside there. If there's a situation where there's a bit of flooding taking place, then most certainly. Leopards do actually lose cubs quite regularly to downpours of rain, particularly if they've used a termite mound, floods the mound, and obviously those little babies are not able to climb out of it and they unfortunately drown. So it has happened. I think we suspect that that's what happened to Shadow once in 2012. She was denning in a termite mound, and unfortunately it seemed as though when we went the next time after the big deluge of rain in 2012 floods, those cubs were gone. So I think that's exactly what happened to her cubs, unfortunately. So if she starts to see water running in there, she probably will move them. Where she'll move them to, I'm not quite sure. I'm surprised, like I said, that she's using this particular termite mound. It's quite an exposed mound given all the options she had. I mean, she had a lot of different places that she could have gone to. And what interests me and what sort of I want to know is, where was she born? Because this is something that I'm quite intrigued in, and the reason why I ask is because at the end of the day, this is not the first female that I've seen that's gone back to her natal area and back into where she was born to give birth. And I wonder if Kruger didn't use somewhere in this area to have her and Shadow. It would be interesting to know exactly where. I did ask Aubrey. He said to me he couldn't really remember. He remembers it being somewhere in this northeastern corner of Djuma, but he couldn't remember the exact location, and I wonder if she hasn't used the exact same place that she was a cub. It would be super interesting to know that, and whether or not she was born in a similar area, and whether or not she's now learned that from being a cub where it was safe for her, that she's going to then utilize it. It's an interesting thing, and something that I'm not 100% sure what the answer to it is, but it is pretty amazing to think that she has, for the most part, come right back into the heart of where she was born to have her litter. And like I said, this is the first time she's ever had a litter here. She's only just established herself in this area as the territorial female for this sort of eastern side of Djuma, and so it's amazing that she already knows exactly where she wants to go, exactly what she wanted to do. It was as soon as we started to see her mating, she started scent marking in these areas, started to be far more visible, and that to me is astounding. You would think that a female would have lost that connection with her birthplace after denning in so many other areas and being successful. I mean, at the end of the day, she's raised cubs, so she knows that the southern part of her territory was a successful area for her. So Chitwa, Koro, Cheetah Plains, those were all areas that she denned on, and she was successful there. So for her to have moved her entire area to den for these cubs is quite fascinating. And then, like I say, it's an interesting take on how leopards move and their psyche as to, okay, what do we do when we're pregnant? Do we go into a situation where we go, back to our natal area if we can, or do they just find a new area? It certainly fascinates me, and it is very, very cool. But I'm just wanting a little black face just to peer out of that mound, because that's what they will be. They will be dark, 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 and very difficult to actually see. Bella Rose, other animals could potentially smell the scent, something particularly like a hyena or a lion. They would be able to easily pick up, and a male leopard. At the end of the day, male leopards are the biggest cause of cubs being killed. They would easily be able to pick up the scent that there is something in here after some time. So the first few times she gives birth, no, you'll have a situation where she's going to struggle quite a lot to be able to find food, to be able to sort of anybody to find these little cubs. But then you'll have a situation where they start to urinate, defecate, then that smell starts to develop, and that's why she needs to move the dens regularly. If you look at something like a wild dog, they'll move their dens every 3 weeks, whereas a leopard, I find, it's not quite as much as that, although it depends on what happens around them. So if she's sitting here inside this mound and 3 of the Birminghams walk past roaring their heads off during the night, she most certainly will probably move the den to make sure that they don't find find her at some point. So, it just depends on a lot of things, but yes, predators will be able to smell them. If they pick up her scent going there, they might sniff around. It also depends, obviously, how big that hole is inside that and where those cubs can crawl into. Maybe it's a situation where, lion and hyenas can't actually get to those little ones. So, going to be interesting to see. Right, well, I'm going to sit here for a little bit longer. At the end of the day, we're not impacting her at all. She seems to be fairly relaxed with us at the moment. It's a dreary, overcast, rainy day, and I don't want to move too much while she's sitting at attention like that. If she goes back down, I'm going to leave, because obviously, like I say, it is a closed-off area. But I'll sit here for a little bit and just see. Maybe we get a visual of these little cubs, maybe we don't, but ultimately, this is going to be our best chance to see them before, 8-9 weeks' time, and so we might as well just try and see if we can have a little look for a little bit. Right, but while we do that, let's go to Noelle, who's been exploring the reserve and has been trying to check and make sort of rounds, and hopefully she's had a little bit of luck, or at least some stories to tell.
Hi everyone, we are busy trying to track very, very fresh male lion tracks. So he walked into the middle here. I'm just trying to get an update. Guys, I'm sorry for interrupting. I've got 2 sets of comms in my ear, so please excuse me. Could I get an update on those Nkuhumas, because I'm busy Lanzarine, Madora, and Gala and Konzo here around Vulatela access? Yeah, if I could get that area, please. Copy. Yeah, I'm going to assume that these Madora and Gala and Konzos then are heading towards those Nkuhumas. Sorry, my comms are a little bit bad. Just confirm somewhere near the gate, Famba East. They came west on Vulatela access, and then he cuts southwest into the block between the power line in Tlela and Vulatela access, and I can't see where he's come out. I'm just busy circling, but yeah, I'll give you guys an update shortly. Copy, thanks. All right, sorry about that, viewers. So as you know, we work with other guides on the property, and as you know, for us, our space that we traverse in is a beautiful space. We get a lot of action, as you see with Tandy, but when something like lions come into our area where we're allowed to view them, it's a pretty big deal. And these tracks that we picked up now, these male lion tracks, are fresh, even with this rain. You can see and probably hear how excited I am. So the guys are just telling me now that the Nkuhumas were seen somewhere around the gate, and there's tracks somewhere around the gate. So over on my right hand side is where these male tracks have come in, and then they have, not that I can see, they haven't come out. So I'm just going to keep circling this area. I did say we're going to look for wild dogs, but I'm sorry, these tracks, these lion tracks, are so fresh. So they're definitely somewhere here. Now, if the Nkuhumas have come back over from, I believe they were on Elephant Plains or Tusa for a long time, I'll have to triple check with Tris. They are probably looking to hunt a little bit, and would be, especially in weather like this. And I have a sneaky suspicion that either I missed those tracks on a hard spot, or that just back where we were now is kind of where they are. I did take a short little walk. I couldn't hear anything. But yeah, I'm just going to finish my little loop here. We're going to find these lions today. No Tingana funny business like with that male leopard yesterday. I want to find these lions. This is going to be fabulous. Okay. And it's very exciting about the sighting that you're getting over with Thandi and Tristan. I'm super excited for you guys. And we're going to head back there now. Keep me posted. Enjoy that sighting of Thandi. Head back over to Tristan.
Well, guys, we had the most insane thing just happen. So Tandy was sitting, staring at us as she has the whole time, and Franklin's came flying over, and she leaped up into the air, well above her head, and tried to grab the Franklin out of the air. You can hear the Franklins are alarm calling, and this is the Franklin that she almost killed. She grabbed it with one paw, but her claws didn't stick, and then she fell down back into the mound, and that's why she's standing now. But she had a serious quick go at those Franklins. But Senzo, while she's standing, can you just zoom in on her tummy for me, please? So I want to see if there are suckle marks. It does look like there is a bit of wetness. Yes, you can see the matted fur. Do you see where there's a bit of fur there that's stuck together? So that is very typical of a female that is suckling. When their fur gets kind of circular and matted, it's from the cub's saliva on her actual teats. And so she's lying back down now, and I think she wants to lie down because she wants everybody to keep quiet. I'm sorry, girl, it was you that made them all go crazy. That was insane, though. The way that she jumped up was absolutely incredible. She probably went, I would say, double the height of her body into the air to grab that Franklin. And it was all just a matter of kind of the Franklin came over her head. She wasn't actually stalking it, but it was just that instinct and that reaction that saw her leap into the air like that. Absolutely phenomenal to watch. Okay, Franklins, enough. Leave Tandy alone now. She hasn't killed you guys. Shame. Poor Tandy's now got birds she has to deal with and carry on with. There's a couple babblers making some noise now. Mita, who's 8 years old. Hello, Mita. Always nice to hear from you. And you want to know if Hosana would be dangerous to these cubs or hurt these cubs if he continues to follow Tandy the way that he has over the last little bit. Yes, he could be a threat to those cubs. No, I don't think she's going to allow him to follow her anymore. So I think we're going to have a situation where she's going to be a lot more aggressive towards Hosana, towards Tamba, and those young boys, and the days of them following her, I think, are gone, unfortunately. I don't think they're going to be allowed, unless maybe she's at a kill somewhere and the cubs are not around. Then you'll find a situation where she probably won't care too much. But if she's on her way back to the den, she'll do everything she can to lose that male and not lead her back to these cubs. And I know Hosana is still a young boy, and so is Tamba, but theoretically they could be a danger to those cubs, and not because they want to kill the cubs out of, territorial kind of notions. It's just that they're bigger and they are stronger and they are playful, and you'll find a situation where maybe Tamba or Hosana would try and play with those little cubs and would hurt them quite badly. And it has happened in lion prides where the older siblings actually hurt that little cub to the point that it can and die, and so that's why she'll try and keep them away as much as possible. That's not to say that it's impossible for this to happen, because Mita, I've seen myself with my own eyes a female leopard with a male of 3.5 years old, and then 3 years old, and she continued to raise cubs, new cubs, with that male. So that male was her older sort of sibling, and he ended up kind of staying with her, and she raised the other 2 males to adulthood with that male, and they all split off together. It was quite something to see. She had, like I say, these 2 young males and then this bigger male and then her, and the poor female, she had to try and feed this lot. Was a really difficult situation. She had to spend so much time catching food, because the male, you can imagine, the male the size of kind of Quarantine, with 2 young males around the size of Hosana and Tamba walking around together. It was not an easy process for her, and she was a busy lady, and she had to, often you would find her with 3-4 impala kills hanging in different trees as she would try and feed all of these big boys and the gluttonous appetites. And so I felt sorry for that poor female. She had a tough time of it, and she eventually, actually, unfortunately, she passed away trying to protect cubs and got hurt by falling out of a tree, and that was the end of that. So it's not very, very pleasant story at all. Okay, Franklins, enough now. You've made your point. I suppose if I had a leopard claw dug into me, I would also be complaining. Proud cat mama, you say, you want to know whether she'll leave cubs if she's hunting, for sure. She's not going to stay here. She's not going to get food delivered to her, unfortunately. So that's why she selects places like termite mounds or banks of riverbeds or thick, dense areas where she knows she can hide those cubs with very little sign of anything being there. And so that's why she does it. She then will leave this area, like when James found her yesterday. She probably had gone for water and maybe hunting, and she then comes back to suckle them once she's done. Once they reach about 3 months old, she'll then start taking them to carcasses for the first time. At that stage, they're able to start climbing and to start moving, and so she would have a situation where she can start kind of taking them towards carcasses and getting them onto food itself. But for now, it's a situation where she's got to go off, do the hunting, get the nutrients for herself, and then come back and be able to suckle those cubs. Now, the direct sort of relation between what she feeds on and the nutrients of her milk is not really there, but she needs to stay strong and healthy and fit in order to protect cubs, and so she needs to constantly be feeding, and that means she does need to leave the den site to go into that area. But amazing to see, and what astounds me about this is that James and Steph and myself, the three of us, have all walked past this termite mound in the last few days. We've all kind of gone around this area. We followed tracks for Tandy here many times, and we've walked around that actual den. Now, I shudder to think what would have happened had we come across here and she had been inside there and saw us. She would have not been very happy at all. So it just goes to show you've got to be very careful when you find female tracks around termite mounds when you know they're pregnant. At the end of the day, it's a situation where you've got to be a little bit wary of what's inside that mound, and don't just go walking up to holes without actually checking first that there's not a track going in that direction. So it's an interesting kind of study, and one that we will have to be a little careful of when we do these things in the future, and especially now with Thandi being around. If we see her tracks around termite mounds, it's going to be a situation where we have to be very careful. Now, it seems as though our Mara crew has sorted out their gremlins. Okay, Franklins. Oh, they are so loud this morning. Have sorted out their gremlins and are back up and running with us. And Miss McCurdy in her fancy boots, I'm sure, is out and about in the Masai Mara and wants to say good morning to all of you.
Tristan, it concerns me that you know I'm wearing my fancy shoes. Why are you watching me all the time? Like, I'm just joking. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a very gloomy, miserable Mara morning. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Jahawi, and it's cold. It's freezing cold out here, and it feels like it's about to start raining again for about the 17th time this morning today. But we are in a short rain, so we shouldn't be surprised, should we? But if you have just joined us, remember you can chat to all of us this morning. You can hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, or you can talk to us via the YouTube chat. Now, we're on the mission. I try to have a quick look around for that male leopard. I'm not sure where he's gone, but he's got such a big territory. So where we're going now, and I might be taking a little bit of a gamble by doing this, but I'm going to try and keep to my word, is that we're going to head towards that bat-eared fox den and see if we can't suss out what's going on. So we're heading basically down past the arena onto the river road, and hopefully they'll be around. It is cold and miserable, so I'm not sure if they're going to be out. Maybe they're just going to be sitting at the entrance of the den. I'm not so sure. I don't think the animals enjoy the rain, or that like to live in burrows, enjoy the rain too much. I've only seen 1 or 2 big warthogs out too. I haven't even seen mom and their little piglets around, so I think that they're also still tucked away taking things. And it's windy as well, which doesn't seem to help. You know, if it was a bit drizzly and a bit cold, it's okay, but as soon as the wind picks up, it's particularly unpleasant. It really isn't nice at all. So we're just going to keep making our way around there, and I'm scanning to see if we can see anything else. We saw some elephants a little bit earlier that had come down from the escarpment and are on their way off, and then that's it. That's really it. The odd buffalo here and there, but no lions. The lions were roaring the whole of last night and the early hours this morning, but I'm not exactly sure where they are. Now, Mimi, you're wondering what temperature is cold for us in Africa? Well, Mimi, the thing is that it's not the cold that gets us, it's the wind chill. We're driving in open vehicles, so it's a very different cold to snow. You know, if you what I would imagine snow would feel like. But when you've got this wind chill and you're sitting in an open vehicle, that coldness gets into every crevice, and it is horrible. So when you've got a temperature of 4 or 5 degrees Celsius and you're driving out in the morning and it's windy and it's a bit raining, I don't know what the temperature is at the moment. It must be maybe about between 10 and 13 degrees Celsius, I'd say, maybe a bit more, maybe even pushing it up to 15. But it is quite chilly this morning. Then it's not nice. But if it's just cold in there and you're just standing outside, it's fine because you put warm jackets on and it's not too bad. It's the wind chill that gets you. And I've had, one of my favorite stories to tell. I've got a number of them. I had this young couple from Germany. I see we have some raindrops on our lens, so Jahari's just going to quickly wipe it. You'll see a cloth coming past in a minute. So basically, I was guiding in the Eastern Cape, and the Eastern Cape is notorious for being freezing cold and having some of the most horrendous winters, especially when you're out on safari. And I'd said to these guests, listen, I'm going to pack hot water bottles, we'll have night blankets, but please bring some really, really warm clothes with you. And they laughed at me and they said, we're from Germany, it's not cold here. And I said, okay, fine, no problem. Next morning they come in shorts, they've got a little jumper, big boots on. I hand them the blankets, hot water bottle. No, not for us, okay, no problem. We start going, half an hour into the drive. Taylor, can we please have some blankets and hot water bottles? I was like, you're cold. He says, yeah. So I gave it to them. And anyways, the next morning they came prepared, big wolfskin jackets. It's like they were dressed to go skiing. That's how freezing cold it gets, just with that wind chill. So yes, you all laugh at us and you call us sissies, but the wind chill is not nice. And still, the coldest place I've had to guide was in the Eastern Cape. Sabi sand gets freezing. I mean, you've seen us beanies, scarves, gloves. We also don't have a door on the side. So that's quite drafty, I suppose. But yes, but one day when you come on safari in winter, even in the Sabi sand, you'll see it's very chilly when you're sitting high up and you're just getting the wind blowing onto you. It's not nice. Well, and hopefully when we go down here, if we don't have any luck with what are we going to look for again? Bat-eared foxes. I forgot for a moment what our plan was. Goldfish memory. We will have a look and see if Scar is around and whichever other males from the Lion Musketeer Coalition. Maybe they're still around the river. I don't think it was them that I heard roaring last night. I think it could have been the Triangle Boys that were making a bit of ruckus down in the valley. It sounded like a group, maybe even some lionesses calling as well. Yeah. So we're just going to keep heading towards that direction. We've still got quite a way to go before we get anywhere near the den. It's not exactly close and convenient, unfortunately. And somebody that seems to be having a bit more luck with signs of some cats is Noel back in South Africa. It seems as though the Nkuhumas might be on the property.
I did pick up tracks of the Nkuhumas, but it's before the rain, before the big rain, and they're heading east and a little bit north away from now. I have a feeling that the male tracks that we picked up, those fresh tracks, that he's looking for them. Because remember, they didn't pop out sort of here, and we had them just up here. So what I want to do is I want to go back to our last fresh tracks, and I want to head in and see if we can pick him up. It is not the best for him to be moving around. He's going to get very wet, but if he's looking for these females, then he'll keep pushing for sure. Oh, sorry. Let's go quickly over to Tristan. He's got something to show.
Well, we're still sitting with Tandy. She's far more relaxed now and is just taking it very easy. She's not really doing too much other than just looking around and kind of having a little squat quiz as to what's going on in the world. Now, unfortunately for us, as much as we would like to leave her to her own devices, we seem to have encountered a gremlin within Jigga, and Jigga does not want to drive at all, and so we're stuck here, and unfortunately, until such time as she decides she would like to move or go disappear into the den itself, that I can just get a quick tow rope onto me and pull me out. So we're just going to have to enjoy the morning. Unfortunately, it's almost as though the world has decided that the universe has said that you will stay here until such time as we feel fit, and so we are just going to sit for a while. I think it's just a bent steering arm, so we'd maybe be able to get it right. But maybe she's gonna, if she rolls to her side, maybe we'll hear her calling, and that will basically attract the little cubs to come out and suckle. It'll be interesting to see what she does. I mean, the weather's not great. It's cold, it's rainy. Is she calling? No, not yet. Come on now, girl. Show us your little ones. You can see she's still kind of looking around, still making sure. I think these cubs are fairly new. I mean, I reckon that they can't be more than a week old. So, I mean, these must be, I would say, 3-4 days at most. I mean, given the tracks that were going in and out of here, was about that amount of days since we started seeing the tracks at this particular termite mound. So 3 days, I mean, that's nothing if you think about it. And those little ones will still, like I say, be struggling to move around. Even at a week old, they're still very tiny. So we're going to have a situation where we'll have to leave them alone at some point and try and see where they pop up eventually. A territorial claim. I think it's more that she wants this territory, yes, because it's a situation where she grew up in this area. She knows this area intimately as a cub. It's perfect terrain and habitat for a female leopard. You've got water, you've got a drainage line, you've got thickets, you've got termite mounds, you've got pretty much everything that you need in order to be able to, survive. And so I think it's a very wanted piece of land, and the fact of the matter is, come on, call for us. If we start hearing her making the chuffing sound, then we can be very, very, very excited. I think, though, she's starting to yawn. I think she's going to get away from the den now. I don't think she's going to sit here much longer. I think she's going to get up and walk. But anyway, I digress. But, it's a situation where it's prime habitat for her, and so it's prime places for her to den. She knows as a cub she was raised successfully here, and so at the end of the day, she would want to move into this area as well. But she's still watching around. Like I say, she is yawning quite a bit. She is sort of quite alert. I don't think, like I say, that she's going to spend too much time here. I think she's going to be up and moving. Maybe she's going to go off hunting for the morning. The conditions are right for a leopard to be able to hunt, or she's going to go back deeper into that mound itself. But she keeps looking over her shoulder as though she can hear the little noises in there. I can't hear anything at the moment. She's just sniffing the wind a little bit. No, here we go. I think she's going to leave now. But you can see the little suckle marks most definitely on her. There you go. You see? There's the suckle marks that I was talking about. The milk is there. She's going into that little thicket. I don't think she's going to call these cubs out at all. I think it's a situation where she's still very nervous of them being out and about in the world, and so her behavior is rather to go into the den to suckle them than to be able to call them to come suckle on her. So in a place where there's a den site where she can't get to them, that's when she calls them out. But in a situation like this where she can actually get to that den site, then you'll find that she's probably rather going to leave them inside there, or she's going to go tuck herself up in the top. Let's see. Maybe not. Maybe she'll come back down, but I don't think so. I think she's decided it's time of the day to start maybe moving around a little bit. But she's definitely got cubs in here. There's no doubt about it, and so we'll definitely zone this area now. Even if we don't have a glimpse of them, that's okay. At least at the end of the day, we know that she's on Djuma now. We know that she's denning. We should probably find a lot of signs of her over the next few weeks in all of these areas, so we'll just have to keep this particular section closed for now. So, but there she goes. Aegis, you're asking how large are the zones when it comes to dens and how far do they get blocked off? Well, normally we try and use roads that are very close, and I mean this one is pretty much on a road, so we would basically just block off the section between Gari Katlan and Hyena Road. That's at a fair distance on either side. It's about 200-300 meters either way of the den, which is more than enough. At the end of the day, as long as we're not creating a system where we're coming to the den site all the time, then it's okay. So there we go. I think she's going to start moving off now. You see she's just kind of disappearing down the mound itself, and it's not the worst thing for us because, like I say, I'm not going to be able to follow her through this, and at the end of the day I can get my car fixed and we can carry on with our morning. But see, she's still sniffing around there. Let's just give it a little bit. She might come back towards the mound. I don't think so though. Like I said, I think it's that time of the day now where she's going to start getting going and moving. It looks like it's what it is. Let's see. There we go, yeah. She's moving off now, so she's starting to go away from us and starting to disappear from the den site itself, which is fine. It's at the end of the day the best thing, and like I say, we'll be able to catch up with these cubs at some point. I'm sure we're going to bump into them somewhere along the line as she moves dens or something like that. But while we kind of try and figure out our car and maybe try and even keep up with Tandy for the rest of the morning, let's go. Maybe not go back to Noelle, because Noelle has got a black screen now. And now she doesn't have a black screen, so okay.
Thanks, Tristan. My lion tracking is going similar to how it went with Tingana yesterday, but that's because this male lion with these fresh tracks has done something funny. Now remember, we spoke about how cats in general like to walk in a straight line. He's walked and then he's moved in a direction that I couldn't anticipate. Obviously it's a little bit easier on foot, but also the area that he walked into, especially with the type of moisture that's coming down those tracks, disappear very quickly. So what we've done, again, like I was saying, is we've done a couple of loops. I can't see that where he's come out at all. I am 99% sure that he is looking for the pride, is looking for these females. And the tracks we had for the females moved in a bit of a different direction, so it's possible he heard them. I was also just saying to Gendre now, with this weather and the tracks from the lions that came in and his movements, I feel like they have probably made a kill in the night. This is just my guess, my educated guess. So again, we're going to keep looping the way that we are, and seeing what we could do. The unfortunate also the same wild dogs will and they don't necessarily want to be in the same vicinity. So I have a feeling that if those dogs caught any whiff of those lions, they've moved off. Hopefully that means they've stayed in our area, but we haven't picked up their tracks, so I can't say for definite yet. And then just an update from some of our other leopards on the property. I know you all really like to know what's going on. Quarantine is over in Torchwood. He's doing well. They've got a nice sighting of him running at the moment. And other than that, yeah, it's pretty much just us looking for these lions. And then you had that wonderful sighting with Thandi. I am super excited about that den site. I haven't seen teeny tiny leopards in, yeah, I can't even count how long. In a very long time. So I'm definitely excited. I'm excited for you, but I'm also excited for myself. That's going to be very cool. Okay, so again, cheeky lions giving us a cheeky little slip. And as this rain gets heavier, they're going to settle. Santos, you're wondering how lions deal with the cold. Yeah, they'll cuddle up, but remember, a lion's covered in lots of fur, so their idea of cold is not the same as our idea of cold. The little ones get chilly, much chillier than us, but yeah, they do well, or they move their bodies. Moving their bodies also keeps them warm. Lots of hyena tracks around as well. I'm very sorry if I seem a little distracted. When you get fresh tracks like this and you know that animal is right here and you can't find him, it's like when you've misplaced your car keys and you know they're right there but you can't see them. It's that same sort of thing. So the question, I believe it's from Switching Rays, the question is, when cats run, do they protract their claws or do they keep them sheathed? It depends on the speed of the cat. So let's look for cheetah. Cheetah's claws are always protracted. They're always like that. For a lion or for a leopard, yeah, depending on the substrate. But what you're going to see with a lion in particular, if it's a nice even, well not even, but non-wet substrate, what you're going to see is that they're going to move. And as long as the substrate is not slippery, the claws will not protract. But then once they're about to go for that animal, their claws will protract, because that claw, even just the one getting into the animal, will help stabilize, because once it's in, that's it. And then they'll be able to take it down. You'll see with the mud that they definitely do, because they're slipping and they're looking for purchase. Good question. Gendre, I don't know if we can do maybe some of these lion tracks, or maybe our roof is in the way. How are you getting them? Oh, fabulous. There's our male lion tracks. So they have rain on them now because we found them probably about a half hour ago and they've been rained on. But notice how there's all of that soil that's clumped up. That means they walked on top of compacted soil. Or him. And then he walks up, and then cuts in and then disappears. Sadly. So what we're going to do, because I'm convinced that he's looking for those females, and because he hasn't had any audio, and I cannot see where he's come out of that block, is we're going to try and find the Nguhumas, which is an even more difficult feat because they walked before the big rain. But because there's so many of them, you can pick up the tracks sometimes more easily. So when he's in the road, like what you guys just saw now, this is nice and easy to track. When he goes off, which is also odd that he went off because they don't normally like to get wet like that. When they go off, it's a little bit harder when I'm in the vehicle, not on my own 2 feet. Okay. Oh, and it's starting to lighten up. That's good. Keep that pesky rain away. There's 2 lions here, Gendre. Mimi, you're wondering, do the big cats ever lose their claws for any reason? They can get ripped out sometimes, but it would be very painful. But no, Mimi, I cannot think of a non-sort of violent time that they would lose their claws. It would be like us losing a finger. You would have to sort of get it, or the tip of a finger, it'd have to be chopped off pretty much. But I'll have a better think on it and see if I can come up with anything. There's 2 sets of lion tracks. I missed the first set earlier. That other set moved off this way. I'm now more intrigued than I was. And also there's been another vehicle that's come down here, so I'm losing a little bit of my... There. It's 2 male lions. It's 2 male lions. This one is going to be harder for me to show you on camera. He's a smaller male. And what I'm doing now, driving really slow like this, is because of the way that his tracks are moving and the way that our light is. It's a little bit harder for me to see. So please forgive me if I'm not looking at the camera, because I've got to look, because this other vehicle drove here, I have to actually look for these little toe marks in the soil, which makes it a little bit harder. And then what you're also going to see as well is, because the ground is wet, you actually have wet soil that's stuck to the bottom of the paw. So sometimes it's not the full track you're seeing, it's just the wet soil. All right. Sorry guys, I'm just thinking. Just here is where that other set of male tracks went off. And now we've got this second male. So my last track is right next to my right-hand side of the vehicle. But because that other car came down, I'm missing something. There's a sequence that I'm missing here. But earlier when I got off the car to look, it was just the one set that I saw going off. I'm now... I can see my own tracks. Tax for Noel. Ooh, Tristan has Tandy again. Let's go over to him. I'm sorry, then you can look at someone's face rather than looking at the back of their head. And I'm just going to carry on tracking here and hope something pops up.
Well, we do still have Tandy. We managed to get Jigga somewhat working. It's not great, and we were sitting on the road waiting for help, and she just popped out right next to us. So it's quite nice. We're just going to sit here and watch her as she goes on her business. I'm not going to be able to follow her for long, but at least I can try and see if we can keep up with her. Now the problem is I've got a roof on, so it's difficult for me to position myself, but she's straight down below the sort of tree there. She's behind that, so we should be able to see a tail popping out at some point. That's where she is, and there she's found a bit of water and is drinking there. But the problem is for me is that I'm going to have a situation. Oh, there she comes. She's just coming out on the other side. Hello, girl. So like I say, she just literally popped out right next to us. The impala's all scattered and she came out. Now I wonder if she's going to head back towards her den. You can see she's got the tail up and raised and is kind of walking around. Now unfortunately there's no ways that I can follow her to where she's going. I don't have the vehicle that's able to do this right now. It's still not fixed properly. We have to replace the entire steering arm, and so we're going to just watch her disappear back into the thickets. But I thought might as well just show you one last look if she was walking around. She seems to be on a serious mission, so from a very static slow start to her morning, she's now up and going, and look at how that tail is raised. That white flag is up to tell everyone I'm not hunting you, leave me alone, and off she goes into the drainage system again. So it was one brief little look, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Right, now I've got to try and get out of here somehow so that I don't end up being stuck, because I don't want to be stuck. So the problem with a steering arm is that your car doesn't really turn very well. You can hear it will shudder as I turn, and so it's going to really struggle. And if I reverse, it's a little bit difficult because the car doesn't actually turn like it's supposed to when you're reversing. So you've got a situation where you've got to kind of do 45-point turns. It's also not good for the tires, because you're hitting the tires up against the chassis of the car. You're also just bending the steering rod even more, which puts strain on all the struts and everything else. So it's really not a good idea to drive a car too much like this, so I wouldn't recommend it. It was just a quick brief straight line that we were following, so it was okay. As long as you can keep fairly straight, then you've got a situation where everything will be alright. But what we're going to do is try and replace the steering arm quickly while we're out here, while we do that, and then we can try and kind of get back to Thandi. I have a feeling she's heading towards Chelapan, that area, so hopefully I'll be able to kind of just pick her up on that side and we can carry on with our morning as she goes off hunting. It'll be nice just to follow her as she goes. I think she's hungry. I think she's going to be looking for food. She was trying to stalk the impalas here, but as she kind of popped out, they saw her and they started alarm calling at her straight away. So I think she is hunting, and it'll be good to try and catch up with her again fairly shortly. So that's what we're going to try and do. I'm just going to try and leave this area. I just want to tell Tax what's going on, because he was going to come this direction, but obviously I can't follow much further than where I am right now. So just trying to look for the easiest way out. The problem is any bumps or sort of taps or anything like that is a bit of an issue as well. So just trying to find a nice clean exit out of this area. Yeah, Tax, she went into the drainage. I can't drive there. I've got a spent steering arm, so if she just headed straight east from where I am, if you drop into the Shkova and then just head a little south, you'll find her there. So I was just giving Taxon a little update as to where she went, and so while I chat to Tax quickly and just help him out to be able to find Tandy, let's go back across to Taylor Mack with her beautiful boots in the Mara. And I'm not creepy, I just know her too well that she was going to use those boots and carry on wearing them over the last couple of days, but I'm sure they will be helpful in the wet weather.
Yeah, unfortunately we had our battered foxes, but they've now run away, so we're gonna leave. The idea behind us coming here now is to try and habituate these foxes, starting with the adults so that they're relaxed around us, and then hopefully that behavior will wear off on any little ones that do pop up, but they've now disappeared too far away to even do anything, so we're going to move out of this area now. It was very nice when we first arrived. They sat around the car, very relaxed, or like maybe 40-50 meters away, very relaxed, and then I don't know, then they just got up and ran. So we'll try again at some other point. Well, now we're just going to bumble again and hope that we find some other things around. They're very precious little animals. I'm looking forward to hopefully spending some more time with them. It is hard, of course, because we can't off-road. Nothing much we can do about that, though. Maybe we'll find it, and then I don't think it's going to be particularly easy to find a den in the off-roading areas because the grass hasn't been eaten. So, you know, the grass is still knee height, and for a bat-eared fox that's maybe only stands about that tall, or maybe a bit taller with its ears, it'll be completely invisible in the grass and you won't be able to see it. So we will try and have a look around for the lions. We've already tried to check for them. They've moved off from where they were, but again, they could just be hiding away in that little rocky sort of area where they were laying yesterday. But with not being able to off-road and with all the rocks and grass, it's not going to be particularly easy. So we might actually just move out of this area completely and go and try somewhere else. Unfortunately, the triangle is very quiet. And we wanted to also go all the way down south today, but Turtle, you're wondering if I can show you my boots. You can have a look. There are lots of screenshots taken yesterday. It's casual Saturday. All my long pants in the wash. Also look on and parade them today. Now I need to just try and get my big boots out. Shuffle. You got it back. It's me. My jeans with my holes in. My casual Saturday pants. Unfortunately, everything got so muddy and wet. I actually changed outfits twice yesterday because I first got saturated. Now I feel like I'm Tristan, comfortable in my front chair. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it's too cold to wear shorts this morning. What am I going to wear? So I put on the old jean pant, as we would say in South Africa. So yeah, so those are my boots. Not big.
Now, unfortunately, Taylor seems to have a few gremlins with her at the moment. I'm slowly limping my way closer to home so that the guys don't have to come too far. Also, if I can maybe get closer to home, I can even maybe get to the workshop and therefore they don't have to work in the rain, or we don't have to work in the rain, should I say. It's not them. I'm going to be doing it just as much as anybody else. And so it's going to be a lot easier. At least the road is not too bad. It's much easier if you just drive slowly on the road. It's not ideal, but it is what it is, and we'll try and just kind of limp our way slowly. It is still a miserable morning, that's for sure. It's not great weather at all, and it's going to be damp and wet, and I would imagine many a cat is looking very sorry for itself, particularly a male lion. Male lions make me laugh when they're damp and wet. They always look very, very sad, and so I hope Noel will find those two boys wherever they may be. But you can see there's something moving in the grass up ahead of me, and that is one of the loudest birds we have out here. It's Brent Leo Smith that is bouncing around. He's flown back to South Africa in order to make some noise and shout at everyone at the DRC. No, I'm just joking. Of course, we give Brent trouble and we tell him that he's like a hardy-dar because of how loud he is around camp, and the hardy-dars are also not a very quiet species. But these hardy-dar ibises, they will be loving this weather, and the reason why is, as you can see what it's doing, it's got a long beak, and so as it goes along, and there's holes in the ground, and those holes in the ground, it then stabs its beak in, and it's able to get crickets and all kinds of burrowing insects. And so when it rains, and it's especially this kind of rain, the soft rain is perfect for softening the ground. It makes the ground a lot softer, and it can get its beak deeper in and access those insects that have been hiding out during the winter months, and larvae and grubs and all kinds of other things. So you can see it just goes completely to town as it looks for things, and they can actually grab quite large insects. I've seen them with big worms before, grubs, beetles, solifuges, all kinds of random insects that they grab, but most of what they go after will be crickets and worms. That's what they really kind of like, and that's why they're a pest on golf courses. And people don't like them on golf courses because they do a lot of damage to the greens and to the fairways as they try and walk around and poke their beak into those areas to pick up insects, and they leave little divots everywhere and holes, and it's not actually ideal at all. Now you'll notice that as it turns and the light sort of hits it in the right way, that there's actually a bit of bronzing that's on their wings. So they do have a bit of an iridescent sheen, so they're not just drab and brown like everyone always thinks they are. They've got this little iridescent sheen on their wings, and then they've got a little bit of red on the beak with that white stripe that comes down from the beak underneath the eye, and it's almost like a football player except the reverse. A football player will have that kind of black marking with a little bit of white in between it, whereas this guy's just got the white of its own. Very cool to see though. I like watching birds feeding along. It's always interesting to see what they get. Silver Wolf, I think you and many others will sympathize with the fact that these birds always wake you up in the mornings. Yes, I have a serious issue with them when they are calling the way that they do at 4 o'clock in the morning. It is loud, it is brash, and they tend to do it right next to your bedroom windows, and so it is not very pleasant at all when a hardy-dar does call. I remember when I was in Johannesburg, when I used to be at school, I used to absolutely hate it because you'd have a kind of school days, and let's be honest, not many of us really wanted to wake up and go to school. Senzo, were you like that? Senzo's just smiling at me because I can see he agrees with this. But it's a cold winter's morning. You've now got to wake up early. You've got to go to school. You're grumpy because you probably haven't finished your homework or you've done something silly. And at the end of the day, this hardy-dar sits and then starts calling at 4 o'clock in the morning to wake you up on a cold winter's morning for school. It wasn't a pleasant experience, and so I associate them with school days and winter school days in particular, and so they don't have a very good place in my mind at this stage. But at the end of the day, they are cool birds. Now that I see them out here, I suppose I've got to try and reset that thinking and keep everything good. Right. Onward and forward to the next feathered friend. I'm sure we will see many a damp, wet, cold, puffed out feathered friend today. I'm sure there's many of them that are just trying to kind of take it easy. Now, I'm trying to kind of slowly get Jigger going. Come on, Jigger, come on. bumping it along, trying to get it home. And so hopefully we'll get, like I say, we can probably get all the way back to home, and we'll then park it under cover where we can actually work on it without getting damp and wet and damp soil in our underpants, because nobody likes that. Anyway, we're talking about kind of damp soil. I'm sure Noelle has looked at many particles of damp soil this morning as she's been tracking these male lions, and I wonder if she's managed to find any more tracks or has a better idea of where they've gone.
So we picked up on where I lost the tracks, and then they crossed on a very hard patch. You could just see the soil that had been stuck on the bottom of their feet moving off just sort of behind us and coming into one of our boundaries. But as we were busy coming to check the boundary, we also picked up, actually Jean-Dre saw them, one set of wild dog tracks that are fresh. So yes, we still are in the process of tracking. We are now tracking lions and wild dogs. Sorry for the pause. I'm thinking in Shangaan and then wanting to say in English. So this is what I feel like I want to do. I want to drive up a little bit and see if anything crosses, and then I'm going to turn and we're going to come back and drive down back a little bit and see what we can pick up. And this border road for us is a little bit bumpy. So, excuse that. It's interesting what's happening this morning. I mean, we're getting a lot of really fresh evidence, which is absolutely fabulous, but we're getting no audio. So we're getting no audio from dogs. We're getting no audio from lions. So there's something potting. We also had a huge amount of hyena tracks earlier. So the audio for dogs that I would be listening for would be either contact calls, where they put their faces close to the ground and go whoo, whoo, to magnify it off, or I'm not very good at repeating it, but they've got a sort of giggling, excited call if they've killed anything. Where we had the wild dog tracks, there was also very fresh impala tracks, so it wouldn't surprise me if they're busy hunting. And then lion roar. Many of us know how a lion sounds. I can do my very horrible imitation. Now, earlier in the show, I was saying I think these males have done something funny and they're going to go find the Nkumas. But after picking up that other track, I do think they're going towards here. And I think, sadly, Jean-Dre was saying that he thinks they have crossed out, and I was going, no, please, no, they're too fresh. But Jean-Dre, I think you're correct. Brings a slight tear to my eye, but I definitely think that that's what's happened. Tina, very good question. How can I tell if the track is fresh if it has rain on it? Tina, there's different types of rain. So we had heavy rain last night and we've had light rain this morning. So the lion tracks that I picked up where during the light rain you can see where they've moved the soil. It looks... let me do this for you, Tina. So it's just drizzling a little bit. Let me just angle the car. I'm going to unplug. And then, Jean-Dre, I'm going to walk up the road a little bit. So we have soil that's been rained on, but now here are my tracks. Okay. Can you see how this looks here? I'm picking up soil that's been rained on and it's crusting, and you can see it pops, it's fresh. You can see my sequence. Now, let's say it was to start to drizzle again. Sorry, Jean-Dre, do you have the pole in the way? Okay, because we can come back to this one a little bit. That might be better. Sorry, guys, we have our roof on. Let's say it starts drizzling again. This is very, very fresh, and then the drizzle will sit in here. So I can say this is on top of other rain with slight rain on it. It's still going to be a fresh track. I just have to keep track of what's happening with the weather. So we've got this little bit of drizzle here. Which isn't going to compromise the track too much. And then so what you could see with my sequence there, that's what the wild dog tracks looked like as it was moving along. And then the lion was with only slight little dimples of rain. So that's how I tell. Good question. Okay. Basil, you're amazing. Thank you. It is not dampening my spirits. I do want to find these cats for sure, and I am definitely still in high spirits. But it's amazing when you get tracks like this, you get a really severe concentration level, and so it's a very interesting scenario for me, especially being new to Safari Live, about having that concentration level and engaging you all, because you're not physically with me on the car. It's really interesting. Wild dog tracks going the wrong way. Do you want me to back up a little bit, Jean-Andre, so you can see them? This makes me sad for life, but that's okay, because if they're gonna come and they're gonna go, I'm going to unplug again, everybody, and then I'm going to walk up to where these tracks are. Jean-Andre, is that okay for you? Or do you want me to go back a bit? Go back a bit more. Yeah. Okay. It's Jean-Andre, what do you say? We have to dance together? We have to dance together to learn to get everything in place. These are the wild dogs. So similar to a hyena, but more of a triangle pad. More space amongst the toes, and then the feet are the same size. So we had the one that was that way. I can see at least 3 or 4 individuals here that have crossed. So they've gone west. They've gone west out of our boundary. But what's interesting about these tracks is these are not as fresh as the ones that Jean-Andre and I saw just now. Now, wild dogs have ADD, so it's entirely possible that they crossed, but then they might come back. I can see impala down the way that are looking at me. And our lions still haven't crossed. So because our lions haven't crossed yet, and because this set of wild dog tracks is way different from that set of wild dog tracks, it's possible that they've looped around and zigzagged through. So no, I'm not giving up hope. Not yet. Okay. Cheryl, thank you so much. You were just saying you liked the explanation of the tracking. Thanks, it's one of my favorite things to do. So I appreciate that you also love doing it. Lots of fresh impala. See, here they are again, these wild dogs. I've counted at least 6 individuals now, but again, not as fresh. It's possible one member got lost, as it were, but it's unlikely. Here, so these are much better. Straight down. Oh, that's fine. Straight across. This is a very large pack. I just want to update the guys on the radio.